Welcome everyone to episode number 8 of, I think it's now the world's 136th most dangerous podcast, the Riverfront Bengals Show. We were creeping up the rankings, but after Chad Dotson took Joe's place last week, we bumped way back down the rankings. He is just not dangerous enough. I am Nate Dotson, your host. My co-host here is Joe Farsing, back after a 1-week hiatus. Joe, how the heck are you?
I'm doing excellent and recharged. So what you're saying is I'm not allowed to leave ever again because Chad screws everything up, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. He's just too safe. It's not working for our crowd. So
I was around when you guys recorded. I could have done it from my hotel room, but kids would have had a problem with that.
Yeah, we felt wrong interrupting your vacation. It sounds like y'all had a good time. Survived Disneyland. I don't know if it's land or world. I never know which one's which.
World lands out in California.
Fair enough. But either way, it's good to be doing another one of these after a Bengals win.
Always better.
In case you didn't know, what are you doing listening to a weekly Cincinnati Bengals podcast? If you didn't know, your Cincinnati Bengals defeated the New Orleans Saints in a bit of a nail-biter against old friend Andy Dalton. The back-and-forth affair was tied up at 7 after 1, 20-14 at half, and 23-21 after the third quarter. Then the Saints were leading 26-23 with right at 2 minutes left in the game when Joe Burrow connected with Jamar Chase for a 60-yard touchdown, providing the final margin 30-26 in favor of the good guys. Joe, you wouldn't call it a Hollywood ending because Hollywood's probably not going to make a movie about a couple of 2 and 3 teams. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase making magic in the same spot where they had so many incredible college moments was pretty special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it seems like they're a little bit comfortable there in the Superdome. It's what you would hope. It's what you expected. What do you expect to see from those guys? Spotlight's on the brightest for them, and they come up and make plays. So it was nice, nice to see it. Not that I was expecting them to go down and drive and take a little bit of time off and maybe a last second touchdown. I didn't expect them to score on one play, but really can't be too upset about that.
No, I think they were probably not expecting that either, but yeah, nobody's going to complain. Let's jump into the defense first. I think most of the talk's probably going to be about the offense, but we need to get into this a little bit. We've kind of talked all season about the defense bending but not breaking, and how a common theme has been, they've been great at times, quite simply, but they bend a little too much at the end, allowing those opportunities for the 3 field goals that ended up in 3 losses. This time it was kind of the opposite. It seemed like that they were giving up points left and right. At one point, New Orleans scored on 5 straight drives, but then when it mattered late in the game, they were able to, hold the line, if you will. Came up big, got the necessary stops, and pulled it out. What did you think about the defense last week?
Yeah, it came down to the point when New Orleans had to pass the ball, and that kind of plays into the Bengals' hands. They're a lot better. Defense is a lot better against passing game than it is running. They ran the ball all over the Bengals in the first half, and so Andy Dalton in a 2-minute drill, you love to see him with the ball in your hands if you're the other team. I mean, seeing so many heartbreaking defeats. Usually the ball would, usually he'd throw an interception or some stupid play, take an ill-advised sack, and he did that as well. So it kind of went the way that you hope it would. But yeah, I mean they were getting gashed all game long in the running game. Although they did pick it up big time in the second half. First half they Saints averaged 9.4 yards a carry, 17 carries, 160 yards. I couldn't find the split, so I had to add them, and my math probably isn't great. I went to public school. Cut me some slack. Second half they ran 17 times again, but only 68 yards, 4 yards a carry. So you can live with 4 yards a carry, especially with the offense, the guys that they have running the ball. They've got a completely unique offense. They'd run 3 tight ends. You've got a quarterback / tight end / run, whatever the hell you want to call it, Taysom Hill. He's a unicorn. He's decent at everything. He's not great at anything, but I mean, good enough to keep you off balance. Alvin Kamara's, one of the best all-purpose backs in the game.
Taysom Hill's like the unicorn that got picked last for the unicorn pickup games.
Yeah,
he's still a unicorn.
Yeah, he's kind of what they should have done with Tim Tebow. The guy who you don't really want him throwing the ball all that often, but if you can use him as a gadget player, I mean, you can put him in for 70-80% of the snaps. He's big enough, he can hold his own blocking, running, and catching. So
they were using
cover, or that you can't.
They were using. That's right, and they were using Alvin Kamara really, really well to create openings for Taysom Hill too. Just the threat of Kamara, who was shredding the defense, was allowed Taysom Hill to get a few big runs. On the day, he's had 228 yards on the ground for New Orleans. The run D really kind of struggled. It was encouraging to see them pick that up later in the end, because we'll get to it in a little bit, but there is going to be a couple big tests for them coming up. And what else I thought was kind of awesome is, we have those 3 losses, and it was because the other team only needed a field goal. This time, whether you want to point to the Evan McPherson field goal before the touchdown made it so that if New Orleans was going to have a chance, they had to get in the end zone. And that's something that our defense has been really, really good at preventing in second halves all season long.
Yeah, they have yet to give up a touchdown in the second half of any games. I mean, we keep harping on this, and you hate to say it. I didn't want to on Slack. I was, keep leaving a little bit of a running commentary, and you don't want to post, to believe what you will in jinxes, but and
we're sports fans. We believe entirely in jinxes.
Right, exactly. That was 31 years after ending Bo Jackson's football career. He cursed the Bengals. I mean, right now they've got the longest streak, and either tied for the longest streak or next week will be the longest streak in NFL history of not giving up points in the second half. And that's a lot of that is Lou Anarumo just knows how to make adjustments. Now you kind of wish that they'd play a little cleaner in the first half, but the offense has kind of been the same way too. First half sloppy, second half cleaning up. So at least they're playing complementary.
That's right. And just so everybody knows, I did read that stat elsewhere. So if the streak is broken this week, we did not jinx it. It was somebody else. Don't hate on us.
Jay Morrison, the Athletic. He's the one to beat on.
Jay, come on, guy. All right. So, we'll get into some more specifics later. Let's move on to the offense real quick. That's what we've been wanting to see from the offense. Joey B and Andy O scored 30 points for the first time since Week 17 against Kansas City last year. They've only lost once when scoring 30-plus points. Going back all the way through last year, you just love to see it. Burrow was in command the entire game. At least he seemed to be, throwing for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for another. Joe Mixon looked pretty solid in both running and passing with 68 yards on 12 touches. And we finally got that Jamar Chase explosive breakout game we've all been waiting for to complement just solid all-around performances by T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. What stood out to you on the offense?
Contributions from everybody. You had 5 different guys. Yeah, 5 different guys had at least 3 catches. Hurst had more of his contributions earlier in the first half. Got a drive going. Mixon had 4 catches. He and catching the ball and turning upfield instead of dancing like he's been doing most of the season. Higgins, even with his hurt ankle, 10 targets, 6 catches, 47 yards. He wasn't explosive, but you didn't really need him to be. Boyd had not a breakout game, but a hey, remember me game. 6 targets, 6 catches, 66 yards. Nice demonic symmetry right there. And then Jamar Chase reminding everybody he's might be the most damn talented wide receiver in the NFL.
I like that Joe's casually dropping 666 into episodes as we get closer to Halloween. So there's your hashtag spooky season from the Riverfront Bengals show.
I mean, when your team colors are orange and black and it's coming up on Halloween, you kind of can't avoid it.
Play into it.
Yeah, twice Chase took outs and broke the first tackle. So I think it was the same cornerback, Roby. Both times broke the tackle and then ran up field for huge gains. One was the 60-yard touchdown. The other one was I can't remember how 25, 30 yards, just in the exact same type play, just outran the secondary to break loose. So everybody got to contribute. Mixon had an efficient day running, only ran it 8 times, and the team only itself ran it 14 times. I'm okay with that mix. You're a lot more efficient that way. If you're not expected to run and you can still run efficiently when you do run it, there's no reason why you can't find success doing that.
That's right. The team was far less predictable, at least seemed far less predictable than they have so far this season. And there were some things, if you want to nitpick, you certainly can. I mean, they went, 4 out of the first 5 drives, I think, or maybe it was 4 out of 5, sort of in the middle of the game without putting any points on the board. And it was at a time when the Saints put points on the board 5 out of 6 drives. So there was some feeling out happening in the first half specifically that you hope can get a little bit cleaned up. This offense has been prone to some slow starts, but by and large, they were utilizing specifically Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd in ways that we have sort of been clamoring for all year. Those quick slants to Tyler Boyd were almost undefendable, and it set up so many second and shorts that we have not seen that often this year. Joe Mixon looked, to me, the eye test anyway, he looked healthier. He was getting a little shiftier out there. He was finding the holes a little bit, and I like not having to run the ball 30-plus times a game. It seems like the offense they've wanted to run that wide zone all season long. It's just a Zach Taylor thing for the last couple years. Like, we're going to do that. That's who we are. And then they realized last week, we don't have the personnel for that. We need to switch something up. And they did, and at least for 1 week, it worked. Do you think that they found their identity going forward?
It sure looks to be. With me being out last week, I didn't do a lot of research on how the game against the Ravens went, so I don't know what percentage. They ran under center twice last week total. The rest of the time they ran out of shotgun. They look like they found something doing a lot of the RPOs. What that does, especially when you don't hand it off, you're sucking those linebackers, or at least holding them for a second, which is leaving those crossers, the slants open over the middle, because you've got the safeties that are so far back taking away the deep game. If they want to march the safeties up, bring them up to protect those, well, then you've got one-on-one on the outside, and you can hit the play over the top. So with this offense, I think they're finding what, their counterpunch to teams playing too deep on them. And you knew that there was adjustments to be made. Teams have been playing that cover 2 for years. So there's always, you have to find a way to how to attack it. And this seems to be a very effective, efficient way. Burrow's getting rid of the ball really faster than he wants to, I'm sure. He'd rather hold on to the ball 3-4 seconds. If that first guy doesn't break loose deep, he wants to run around and, escape the pocket and get someone open on a broken play. But it seemed to work really well. Saints defense is decent. They weren't, they're not 85 Bears or anything, or the 2000 Ravens, but they're a good defense, and they had their way with them the second half. So,
yeah, it's worth noting that those 2 plays they ran under center, one was a QB sneak and the other one was a kneel down. So they really ran no standard plays from under center at all, which is great because they just haven't been working. Other than that, I think, like you said, they're spreading the ball around. We didn't have a huge T. Higgins game, but he had some big catches and big moments. A lot of the offense this season has come on these long third downs, and the Bengals and Joe Burrow specifically, are among the best, if not the best, at like third and long conversion percentage this season. And that's a fortune cookie that you're gonna, you can't use every week. Yeah. Eventually, that recipe is going to go bad because they've been terrible on early downs. I don't know the exact stats, but it sure felt like they faced more second and third and very shorts than they have all season long, and it put them in position time and time again. I enjoyed it very, very much. So let's keep this positivity train rolling. And who are some of your studs for the week?
Obviously, Jamar's star number 1, 7 catches, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, 83.5 grade on PFF. He had a slow start to the game, as the offense did in general. But the second half of the game, he took over. They were finding him over the middle, and again, those 2 out routes that they found him, he breaks the first tackle and starts streaking down the sideline. So,
yeah, 2 receptions in the first half, 5 in the second, and it just seems sort of like they reestablished a connection that had kind of been missing. You don't need him to be behind the defense to be impactful. And a lot of the plays that all the catches he had were in routes that he's run so far this season. They just haven't been able to find him. And maybe it's because Joe Burrow's getting a little more comfortable in the pocket. The offensive line is doing a little bit better. Or maybe it's just because he is willing to trust what the defense is giving him. But it sure worked.
Yeah, it's funny. The one time they did go deep to him, he should have caught it for a touchdown.
Yeah.
The D-back kind of hit his hand when he was going up to catch it. Kind of tapped his hand. It wasn't interference or anything. I think that just kind of screwed up his timing, but he still should have had it for a touchdown. But he definitely more than made up for it later. Second stud of the game has to go to Joe Burrow. Very efficient, 28-37 for 300 yards on the dot, 3 touchdowns passing, 1 on the ground on that nice little Houdini move. Pocket was kind of collapsing. He's snuck between the right guard and center and just escaped to the left. And there was absolutely nobody. I mean, he could have done a crab walk into the end zone. He would have had plenty of time. So even Chase is kind of looking, kind of watching him. He's not even rushing over to block because there's nobody over there to block for him. So he had easily his most effective game of the season.
Certainly. And his pocket presence this week was just fun to watch. He the other 3rd and 3 late in the game when he looked like a surefire sack and he scrambled out and hit Tyler Boyd on the 3rd down pass to keep that drive going, which eventually led to points. It was just, we've mentioned several times this season about it looks like he's seeing ghosts, and these last 2 weeks it doesn't really feel that way anymore. So hopefully that's a theme. You got one more stub for us?
Last one is Cheeto, my boy. I didn't put down what his PFF grade was, but he was fantastic. They only threw to his side 4 times. Now they didn't pass the ball a lot. I guess 36 times, but only 4 targets. The guy he was covering, 1 catch for a grand total of 7 yards. Absolutely. You almost wish he was less effective, so they'd throw the ball his way instead of over to the other side to Eli. But I mean, he's that shutdown corner. There was a I can't remember who the receiver was, but Dalton threw deep. The play was there, and he just stuck his hand out there, swatted it away right at the goal line. So I mean, he's as close as a shutdown corner as there is. So
yeah, how underrated is this guy?
Yeah, he came on an absolute. His contract that he signed is just an absolute steal. He's a top tier cornerback, and he's paid kind of like a depth guy. I think. He's paid around what Hilton makes, and I love me some Mike Hilton, but he's a lot better than Mike Hilton. He's a lot better than anyone else in that secondary. He's better than Jesse Bates. He's better than Von Bell. So
yeah, that's not even debatable. He's making a name for himself. The only other stud that I kind of want to single out is Sam Hubbard. It wasn't necessarily one of those eye-popping, jump off the TV screen type of performances, but Sam was just solid. He was super solid all day long, grading out at 78 overall. And he came up absolutely huge on the game-winning defensive stand. He tipped 1 pass and sacked Dalton, which led to a 4th and long, the 4th and long that they couldn't convert. Just a awesome, inspiring performance by Sam Hubbard. But all good things. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, he's got a relentless motor. He's going to get out there and give you every bit that he has. There's no reserve. He's not holding anything back. So he's fun to watch.
Oh yeah. But all good things must come to an end. So let's get to some duds real quick. Who's your first dud?
I mentioned him earlier, Eli Apple. They were clearly targeting him both before the game, just because of all the shit that went back and forth with him in New Orleans last season when he left them. There was one drive he allowed 3 third down receptions. He wasn't even in the same area code as some of these. It's like a 20-yard cushion on a 3rd and 10, and it's all you have to do is look where number 20 was covered, and he was wide open. Absolute piss poor technique on the end around run that they had for a touchdown. He was the outside cornerback, and he took himself out of the play. He kind of washed himself in towards the line. Wide receiver gets around the end, and there's nobody there. Cheeto didn't take a great tackle or didn't take a great angle come around the other end and pretty much walked in from 44 yards out. So just a bad game all around. It's Cam Taylor-Britt's time, I think, is coming soon.
Yeah, you have to sort of suspect that they're looking at something at least. He was the worst rated defender on the day. You wonder if his history with New Orleans might have gotten to his head a little bit. I don't know. He almost and should have given up a 70-yard touchdown on the Saints' very first drive.
Yeah.
He was beat, and Andy Dalton happened to be playing quarterback.
Yeah.
So be thankful for that.
I don't know if you paid too much attention to the huge hit he put on Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
It was just a keeper, and he comes up and just absolutely lays him out. It was a nice play. I mean, it was 1 yard loss, 2 yard loss, whatever. I mean, it was behind the line of scrimmage, and he just clean, hard shot. So, at least he's got
more
that
of
to hold up.
more of that and less than everything else he seemed to be doing on the field.
Yeah.
Who's your next dud?
Jonah Williams. He was terrible at pass blocking and run blocking. He had a 27.3 pass blocking grade. 3 hurries and a sack. He was hurt last week, had the dislocated kneecap. He was questionable all game. I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass, but and the team as a whole, the line was fine. They gave up 3 sacks. 2 of them were on Mixon. So, the line kind of picked him up, but he was not good. Didn't have a good score run blocking either. So,
yeah, we got to be fair, and he was bad. It's hard to blame him too much. If I dislocated my kneecap, I'd be too injured to be on this podcast right now. So I'm not going to say a damn thing. But yeah, it was not a good day for Jonah, but it worked out in the end. The only dud that I want to bring up is we don't need to spend much time, but Trent Taylor. He had a fumble on a punt return in the first quarter, just a brutal fumble. It led to great New Orleans field position and eventually their first touchdown. It was one of those funky ones too where nobody touched him. It was a non-contact fumble. So I don't know what happened. It just popped out, but he stayed in, made plenty of plays later in the game. So you chalk it up to a fluke thing. But at the time, I was pretty nervous. Starting fast has been a theme for at least a ideal scenario for the Bengals all season long, and that didn't help anything.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, he's just running, and it was right before he made contact. It just slipped right out from his hands. The very next punt was fielded at the exact same spot on the field. Ran pretty much the exact same. I don't know if it was set up the exact same way and turned it into a nice return. So he quickly put it behind him. It wasn't the Darius Phillips game from last year against the Niners when he had muffed 2 punts in the same game, and it was never heard of again. So he quickly flipped the page. So bad fumble, but I'm not worried about it long term.
Yeah, me either. We don't want to spend too much time on the negative after an awesome win. So let's move on to our next segment, and this one is going to be fun. It is the Ron Burgundy Milk Was a Bad Choice Award for the worst call of the week. And in case you don't know what we're talking about,
it's so damn hot. Milk was a bad choice.
I can't stop laughing at that. I'm so excited to do that once a week from here on out. In case you are just listening and you have not seen Anchorman, first off, pause the podcast. Go get on Netflix or whatever streaming service has it and watch Anchorman. It's one of the greatest movies in film history. But yeah, chugging out of a carton of milk on a hot California day, not a great choice. What else was not a great choice this week, Joe?
A draw to Samaje Perine on 1st and 20. It was about midway through the fourth quarter. They were down 5. Just had a holding penalty set them back. And draw play, they netted a whole 1 yard. They ended up converting on that. That was the drive that ended in the 52-yard field goal by McPherson. But you need yards. You're not in a rush, but that's not a drive you want to punt on. You don't want to be too cute. Just all these short crossing routes been working all day long. Don't be too cute. If you want to bring Perine in to block and to leak out if need be for a pass, fine. But don't be too cute. That was dumb.
Yeah, and Cincinnati fans are getting a little too familiar with what it seems like Zach Taylor being cute. Philly specials and then shovel passes and whatnot. So just keep doing what's working. It's not crazy. Runner-up, I think, I believe you would agree, goes to Joe Mixon in pass protection. At least 2 sacks were directly related to missed blocks by Joe. Looking back on both of them could have ended up being killers too. You look at how close this game was and when they happened. Thankfully, they were not. But yeah, that seemed iffy at the time and proved to be.
Yeah.
Other than that, go ahead.
I was going to say that, the first one of those, he ended up blocking Cordell Volson. He's the Bengals left guard. He's not who you want to be blocking. You want to block someone wearing the black and gold uniforms of the Saints, not the white uniform. It was bad. And the second sack was literally in the sequence when Jonah Williams gave up a sack. They were driving. Williams gave up a sack, and then immediately Mixon gave up that sack, and it's 3rd and 29 or something crazy. I can't remember the exact yardage. They picked up 7 yards and then ended up kicking the long field goal. But He's bad in pass protection. He had a 0.0 grade for pass blocking today or on Sunday. That's suboptimal.
This is not golf where a lower score is
No.
better.
No.
Well, if there are bad calls, then there must be good ones. So we have now got the Billy Madison I'm the Smartest Man Alive award for Good Call of the Week. And in case you don't know,
I am the smartest man alive!
I can't handle it. Billy Madison is definitely my favorite comedy of all time. You're going to get a heavy dose in this podcast of me trying to force feed you all clips from my favorite movies. Joe, who is your nominee for the Billy Madison I'm the Smartest Man Alive Good Call of the Week?
I think it was just the game plan in general. Just switching to doing exclusively out of the shotgun. The RPOs, the short crossers, they seem to work real well. And if you incorporate that and teams start to game plan against that, again, they're going to have to make a choice. Bring the safeties up to cover the intermediate routes or leave them back, and they're just going to get picked apart.
God, you just freaking love to see it, man. We have every Cincinnati fan has been clamoring for this all year long. That switch to RPO, it made them far less predictable. Those quick slants to Tyler Boyd, man, how many times have we said they need to get that going? Yeah. You know, the efficiency increase in both the run game and that short intermediate game eventually forced New Orleans into man coverage. Bada bing, bada boom. Chase gets to put the apron on and do some cooking. I love it. So we'll see if they finally found their identity. But, man, it is all good vibes on that front, at least for a week. Joe, you ready to get into some awards?
I am ready for more awards.
All right. Every week we're going to give out random awards based on something that we have not yet covered that we feel like needs to be touched on. First up is Joe with the Ferris Bueller Where's Your Brain Award for Stupidity.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Where's your brain?
Why'd you kick me?
Where's your brain?
Why'd you kick me?
Where's your brain?
I asked you first.
If there's a better movie in the 80s than Ferris Bueller, you're going to have to clue me in. I mean, there's a lot of great ones out there, but I love that scene.
The clip is too perfect for your award too. So why the Where's Your Brain Award for Stupidity?
I think that was Lou Anarumo that was kicking Trey Hendrickson. 3rd and 25. They checked. Dalton has to check down for a 9-yard gain, 4th and 16. But no, Hendrickson decides to shove Dalton down about 30 seconds after the play was over. It's not one of those ticky-tacky, like, what are you calling that for? No, this was just dumb. It wasn't even violent. It's just, what the hell is going on, dude? Come on. You're better than that. Ended up, they continued the drive and kicked the field goal. Didn't cost them big time in the end, but come on. Yeah, exactly.
Easily could have. We will not disparage the name of Trey Hendrickson very often on this podcast, but my goodness, watching that in real time, I was less surprised that it happened than I was by who committed the infraction. You just don't expect something like that out of Trey, but thankfully did not hurt him too bad in the end. So I am up. I'm going to give the Lloyd Christmas So You're Telling Me There's a Chance award.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah!
Man, we are crushing it today. My award goes out towards the Bengals playoff chances because we got a chance, baby, a real chance. Some quick stats. By winning this game, Cincinnati seriously improved their odds. Not only are they now tied for first place in the division with the Ravens, 538.com now gives them a 59% odds to make the playoffs. That's best in the AFC North. On top of that, teams that start 2-4 have a 10.4% chance of making the playoffs. Compare that to 34.5% for teams that start 3-3. So obviously 3-3 is not what we all would have, where we'd hoped to be when this season began, but that 24% increase in playoff likelihood got me feeling like a Lloyd Christmas, baby. I love it. So speaking of the standings.
I was going to say, considering the mediocrity going on in the – let's say, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just kind of touched on this, the playoff odds and kind of the standings and everything. There's a whole crap load of mediocrity going on. So 3-3, there's a hell of a lot worse. And that's, you're technically half game behind the Ravens because they've got the tiebreaker head-to-head. Bengals are unfortunately 0-2 in the division, which doesn't help them, but I think they're in better shape as the season moves on, regardless of what, this whatever, despite whatever the schedule says. So.
Yeah, I think it also puts a little bit of a spotlight on this next week. I think Baltimore and Cleveland are playing each other, so
They are.
something's going to happen there. There's going to be some movement. But, yeah, speaking of standings, Baltimore and Cincinnati both are 3-3. Cleveland and Pittsburgh are both at 2-4. And I don't know, it kind of just feels like we're going back to a different era of football. I mean, it's been pass forever. And the reason I think there's so many mediocre teams right now is because the pass game, we'll call it, chalk it up to the Tampa 2 or whatever it is. People have figured out how to slow down these passing offenses, and defense and running the football is becoming more and more important. A balanced offense is looking more and more important. And I think that the teams that were selling out for the past are kind of lagging behind here. And I think it helps Cincinnati. It makes me feel good about their chances down the road because when healthy, the defense is stout. We know that. And I think they can sort of do it all on offense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. You talk about balance. They're probably one of the most unbalanced teams right now. They are almost exact 2-to-1 pass to run splits, but they also have a hell of a lot more talent, on this in the skill positions than pretty much any other team in the NFL. So if there's if any team's going to be the one that, one of the ones that can kind of buck the trend of what, whatever the hell's going on, why all these, top-notch quarterbacks, they just look tired. They don't, outside of what Josh Allen, Mahomes is looking pretty good. Lamar Jackson is doing Lamar Jackson things, running the ball spectacularly, and still not a guy that, is very trustworthy throwing the ball. But, yeah, it's weird times right now. You're looking at the schedules, you're looking at the standings. Tom Brady looks about 45, 46, he physically looks like he's 60. I don't know. He aged 20 years with, he went on a hunger strike after Giselle left. But he's actually playing his age too, which is, Aaron Rodgers still has nobody to throw the ball to. So yeah, it's weird times going on. And yeah, we're turning the ball back, turning the clock back to running the ball apparently.
Yeah, everything's changed except for Russell Wilson. He's still awesome. Oh, wait, no, he's terrible because screw that guy. My least favorite player in the entire NFL. That's right. If any of you listeners or viewers have any terrible stories about Russell Wilson, please send them to team@riverfrontcincy.com because we would love to shame him in public. He's the worst.
Imagine Seahawks fans. You get rid of a franchise icon, and you have to play Geno Smith. You get a haul of you get some players, you get some draft picks, and you have by far and away the better quarterback.
Yeah,
Russell Wilson.
Just like everybody saw coming.
Oh yeah, it's everyone thought Geno Smith was going to be one of the top-rated passers in the league, and Russell Wilson was going to look like Mr. Wilson from Dennis the Menace.
Boom, Dennis the Menace reference. We are coming at you all today.
We are strong.
We are firing on all cylinders.
Week off didn't work.
That's right. Let's get into some injuries real quick. Usually this is a pretty depressing part of the episode, but I actually thought there was some good news today. The big one was Logan Wilson. They were saying he injured his shoulder late in the game. It was the same shoulder that he had surgery on in the offseason. Not the same injury apparently, but the same shoulder. And in the post game, Zach Taylor said he was hoping that it was week to week. And being week to week and being hopeful that's week to week are two very, very different things. But I was reading today that they're saying it's day to day, and there is a chance he could even play this week. So,
yeah, that's
very, very,
very
good news there.
Yeah, they were thinking 2 to 5 weeks. He didn't practice today, but he was working out on the rehab field. And yeah, I think it kind of depends on where he is tomorrow. If he's limited or, full, I doubt it'll be a full participant, but if he's at least limited, not on the side field, I think there's a decent chance he can go. I don't think he will. I think they'll give him the week, but they've got a rehab, they've got a training staff. It's, if it's a measure of pain tolerance, he played through a totally jacked up shoulder last year. He's a tough guy. He's going to try to suit up there. So
yeah, he can do it. Speaking of pain tolerance, what's the latest on Jonah Williams?
No worse for wear. He had the dislocated kneecap. He came through the game without re-injuring. I mean, didn't play well, but he should be good to go for this week as well. So.
Yeah, and it seems like it's sort of the same for T. Higgins. Didn't re-aggravate that ankle that took him out in the first quarter against the Ravens. So he had a solid, if not spectacular game. I kind of have a feeling that he's going to have a big one this week. So stay tuned for that. And then what else? Did you get any other injury updates or news from the pressers?
Yeah, Joe Bachie was he's backup linebacker. He had tore his knee last year. He was special teams for a lot of the season. Actually came in and played a few games when Wilson initially hurt his shoulder last year, and he played really, really well. He was activated from injured reserve. They've got the 21-day window. Wouldn't be surprised if he's added pretty quickly just for special teams. And with I think it kind of depends on if Wilson is up, then I think they'll give Bachie another week. If Wilson is down, I think they might activate Bachie this week, and just for special teams depth, maybe play Clay Johnson and Marcus Bailey a little more in base sets on defense. Just use the other guys in special teams. So he's kind of a nobody, came from nowhere guy, but he was really useful and played his ass off last year. So I'm kind of excited to see, for a guy who's probably practice squad, might be a practice squad guy if everybody's healthy. He's shown he's got ability. So
yeah, and they're going to need some depth. DJ Reader still not ready to come back. The signs and reports have been really encouraging. He's been on the rehab field, putting in the time. He was on the sidelines apparently for the Saints game, which is not something they do for super injured folks. So hopefully he is going to return sooner rather than later. And with Tupou looking like he might also potentially be out this week. I hope not, but he left in the Saints game, and I haven't seen an update on that just yet.
He's week to week, so I'm pretty much safe to assume he's not going to be playing against Atlanta. Maybe against Cleveland. You would hope in one of the few games, but also you'd hope that Reader's good to go here in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, and that he was on the sideline is huge, because that means that they feel he's healthy enough to get the hell out of the way if there's a tackle coming his way. You don't want him jumping around on a gimpy knee trying to avoid, a scrum. So
yeah, that's exactly right. His presence is going to be missed this week for sure. And speaking of this week, Marcus Mariota and the 3-3 Atlanta Falcons are coming to Paycor Stadium for a 1:00 matchup in what appears to be a strength versus weakness kind of game. Atlanta, they run the ball. They're not coy about it. They're going to try to run down your throat with a bunch of different people. They grade out at an 82.5 in the run game. That's number 2 in the league. And they are going up against Cincinnati's 55.2 graded rush defense, 10th worst in the league. How worried are you about that matchup?
If Cordero Patterson was playing, I'd be very worried. He's on IR, so not really. I don't want to brush it off that, the Bengals are going to cakewalk through this game. They're clearly the better team. They're going to get gashed in the running game. It's about keeping the 10, 12-yard runs from becoming 30, 40-yard runs. So to me, it's more just playing smart defense, playing good team defense. You don't need somebody to take himself out of a play being overly aggressive. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that this matchup against the Saints might have prepared them a little bit for what they're going to see against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota is not going to beat you through the air. If he does, then you need to reevaluate your approach. Tyler Algiers, their Cordero Patterson's backup, he's looked pretty solid. So we're going to see how that plays out. It's definitely going to be something to watch. But the other side is also true. Atlanta has a 58 pass rush grade going against what we hope is an improved and clicking Bengals pass game. In a perfect world, the O-line is not a liability here, and Burrow has plenty of time to make the right calls, and the offense keeps rolling. Anything that stands out to you about how the Bengals match up in the passing game?
There's definitely plays to be made. Falcons had to place goodness, totally lost who it was. Casey Hayward, the cornerback, on injured reserve,
Mm-hmm.
so they're down some guys. It's strength Bengals should be able to flex their muscle a little bit here. Falcons have a pretty good run defense. Grady Jarrett in the middle of the line is outstanding, but
yeah, he's legit.
But Bengals, that they're not running the ball. Thankfully, have switched from running the ball that much, so that's kind of mitigated. And when you get into hit those quick crossing routes on first and second down, it's 3rd and 3, 2nd and 3, something like that. Then you can be unpredictable and you can run the ball with success, no matter if that's the best run defense in the league or not. So, I think they're going to be in an advantageous space against their defense. Again, if they stick with the game plan that they ran last week, the RPO is running out of shotgun completely. Having Burrow on some drawn quarterback keepers, it's
sure.
It's just keep the game unpredictable. When you're going under center and running the ball, every time, they know what you're doing. Or if your running back is tipping, because he's standing up straighter to see the linebackers, whether you're going to run, pass, or whatever, you're tipping your hand. So if you can be more unpredictable, I think if they stay strong on the early downs, then I think that their offense should be able to roll.
Yeah, I think you're right. One matchup to watch is Atlanta cornerback Darren Hall. Has been having an outstanding season so far. So whoever he ends up matching up against, T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, that's going to be a fun one. And if T or Jamar win that matchup, then it's really going to leave a lot open because there's a big drop-off in talent after him.
Definitely.
Anything else that you want to touch on about next week's game before we get into a couple quick viewer mail questions?
Falcons season has been very bizarrely almost exactly mirroring the Bengals. Lost the first 2, won the next 2, lost week 5, won week 6. All their losses have been really close games, one possession games. Their wins outside of last week against San Fran have all been close games. So Bengals are the superior team, but it's kind of a bizarre to see this far in the season teams that are that similar how the season's going. One thing that is awesome, I don't know how many people still remember Devin Still. He was defensive tackle by the Bengals. His daughter, Leah Still, was diagnosed with neuroblastoma in 2014. Went through all the treatment. The Bengals kept him around on the practice squad, basically just to keep him on the employed and on health insurance to take care of her all of her cancer treatments and everything. Just awesome story. He won the Ed Block Award. He won an ESPY award. He and his daughter won an ESPY award just for courage and everything. January 2016, they were able to announce that she was cancer free. They are the rulers of the jungle this week.
Love it.
Yeah, they'll be kind of led with leading the crowd, routing the crowd up to begin the game, and I think it's fantastic. Just reading the story, and I remember, when all this stuff happened. It was 8 years ago, but just rereading when hearing they're going to be honored, it started to get me a little verklempt to get coffee talk, old SNL on everyone. So it's love to see it. I think everyone's going to be happy to see them come back in the jungle. Crowd will be absolutely loud and should be rocking.
Yeah, it does not get any better than that. You just absolutely love it. So now it's the time has come. How do you see this game going?
They found something in the passing game. They found something with their with the game plan. I think if they stick with it, they're going to win. 24-13. Atlanta's going to run the ball, but if you can keep them from hitting the huge plays, I didn't mention it, but last week on 3 consecutive plays, starting with the 44-yard run, end around for a touchdown, Saints ran for 99 yards over 3 plays. Taysom Hill broke loose for 24-yard run. Kamara had 30 some odd yard run. So if they can keep that crap from happening and force Mariota to throw the ball, that plays into their game plans. I don't want to see injuries, but I wouldn't be upset if Mariota had to come out so I can see my boy Des Ridder play. But again, he's a rookie quarterback. So again, that plays into the Bengals' hands. So yeah, like I said, 24-13.
Yeah, let's hope Des Ridder waits until next week. I won't be upset at all if that happens, Joe. And, I think the Bengals can and should win this game. They are 6-point favorites, I believe, at least at time of recording. But I think Atlanta's run game is going to make it tough. And the Falcons are going to cover. But Cincinnati wins. They pull out a 28-24 victory, and that offense keeps humming and putting points on the board. So there you have it. You ready to get to some viewer mail questions?
Let's rock.
Go just a couple this week. The first one is by someone called The Riverfront.
Ugh, God, I hate
Who
that
the
guy.
hell that is.
He's a jackass.
His question is, why haven't you discussed UVA football yet on this week's episode?
They're really bad.
I can't imagine who that would be.
Yeah, they're really bad. That's why, and yeah, that's all we need to talk about them.
Yeah, that'll do it. UVA is playing a team from the state of Georgia also this week in Georgia Tech. But unlike UVA, the Bengals have won a road game in the last year. So that's all you're going to get out of me, anonymous person. And our last question is from friend of the show, Seth Shaner. Seth says, for the first time this year, the worry meter is shifting more to defense, not because of anything they're doing wrong, but because of some key injuries on the line and with Logan Wilson at linebacker. But the offense seems to be on the uptick. Where should the worry meter be heading into this current stretch, specifically against two good running teams in Atlanta and Cleveland? What you got?
I don't think there's any specific reason to worry this week about Atlanta. I think they're playing over their heads. They're better than everyone thought they were going to be. I mean, they were expected to be contending for the number one overall draft pick, but they're still not a very good team. The only game that they won convincingly was last week against a very uneven 49ers team. They can run the ball, but great. You're going to have to throw the ball at some point. And Marcus Mariota is on his, there's a reason he's kind of turned into a journeyman. He's just not very good. So for this week alone, I'm really not too worried about it. Wilson's injury is not as bad as expected. Reeder and Tupou should both be back within a few weeks. God, I hope one of them, if not both, are ready to go. But Jay Tufele, the guy's got beautiful flowing hair. I mean, Jonathan India style hair. He had a hell of a game backing up. He made a couple plays. I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Kamari, like a 3-yard tackle for a 3-yard loss last week. So depth is tested, but that's why you pay 53 players and you've got a practice squad. So,
yeah, all good points. If you have to point the worry meter somewhere, I think it's definitely like Shane's alluding to. It's how is that defensive line going to hold up against the run? And we're going to find out a lot these next 2 weeks. If they can hold up against these two teams, then once DJ Reader comes back, then it should scare a lot of other teams.
I don't think anyone's going to run for 228 against them like New Orleans did. And if they escape that, I mean, Tupou went out early and Reader hasn't been in, and if Wilson's not going to miss much time, I mean, you're going to see a similar personnel to what was out there in the second half. And again, second half they held that team to 4 yards a carry. If you can do that, 4.5 yards a carry, that's not great, but you're still keeping your team in the game.
It should be enough if the offense performs.
Exactly.
Well, Joe, that is all I have for this episode of the Riverfront Bengals show. Do you have any parting thoughts?
Just all the love in the world to the Still family. Looking forward to seeing them on Sunday.
Absolutely. We love it. And please, folks, take a second, if you don't mind, to go to wherever you get your podcasts and follow, whatever the thing that they ask you to do there is. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/RiverfrontCincy. You can give us a subscribe there. We're going to keep this stuff coming to you. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. And for Joe Farsing, I am Nate Dotson, and we'll see you next time.